hello, hi, how are you? And welcome to another podcast by George. Well, we've had a lot of news and views and interviews on lately, but we haven't had a lot of music and blues and the kind of stuff that is the entertainment element of the program. So we're going to get back to it today, and it all goes back to me and the podcast. I started this fall after retiring, and I wanted to get back to, some of my pursuits, the things that I love. And, I play a little bit of hockey, so we have that on there, these political things and the news and the journalism and the radio background is well represented. But the other thing about it is, with retirement, I wanted to get back to music. I wanted to get back to listening to local music particularly. And I hadn't been, I'd been busy with the career, and I just hadn't been going to the venues and hearing people. And started out with the Friday afternoon work release program down there with Bob Pace at the Gas Lamp on Friday afternoons, which was a great way to wrap up the work week. And then I was slowly getting introduced to the local music scene. And holy buckets, there's a lot of talent in this town. It's just amazing. You say local music, but this stuff is as good as the music that's being shared on any national stage anywhere in this country. So that's the nature of the guest today. We're talking to Dave and Ann Ducharme-Jones, and they're here in town. And I want to start off with a little backgrounder, a little bit of a bio. And it reads that originally hailing from Austin, Texas, and now residing in the Des Moines Metroplex, I love that, Metroplex, Ducharme-Jones bring their Americana roots rock to the heart of the Midwest, featuring the songwriting and performance of Dave and Annie Ducharme-Jones. You can catch them as a five-piece band or in more intimate settings as an acoustic duo, and it's all good, folks. I'm telling you, this stuff, this isn't just good, this stuff is great. Their originals will appeal to listeners with an appreciation for upbeat lyrical songwriting with a hook to draw the listener in, as well as Dave's signature guitar style with influences from rock, modern country, and blues. And of course, the subtitle for the podcast is News, Blues, and Interviews. But I got to confess, I'm not just a blues guy. I like the blues, and I like a show that has some blues. But I like the other stuff too. And I like a show that has the mix. And Ducharme-Jones brings that mix. It says, catch a rootsy performance, and it'll include many of their own songs, along with their versions of some of their favorite covers, including but not limited to Lucinda Williams. God, I love Lucinda Williams. Some of the other covers that they do, Government Mule, Jimi Hendrix, Little Feat. God, I love Little Feat, Linda Ronstadt, or Dolly Parton. Of course, Linda Ronstadt's voice has been silenced forever, really, as far as music is concerned. She still does interviews and everything with that damn Parkinson's that we talk about on the show. So their love of multiple genres keeps their set list dynamic and interesting. And their newest CD, and they've got another one in the works here. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to start off by talking about the album that I've been listening to, Strangest Things. The description of that is it's a showcase of a collection of 13 songs tied together by soulful vocals, sophisticated and melodic guitar, and rootsy arrangements. Ducharme-Jones' debut album features the songwriting and performances by Dave Ducharme-Jones and wife and bandmate Annie Ducharme-Jones, longtime residents of Austin. The couple began co-writing their recent release following Dave's solo releases Weeds, that was back in 2009, and A Loud Guitar, 2012, as Annie moved into more songwriting and shared lead vocals. So the opening track is Red Roses, and I think I was looking on Spotify and on YouTube. Is that the song that gets most played? Is that the one that's the most popular, Red Roses, or is it the title song?
It's the first song on the album, so it kind of starts out with a bang, and I think you get, when you hand somebody a new record and they don't know anything about it, that they usually go to that first track, and I think, I don't know if bands still do it, but they usually load a really good one, attention getter right at the front.
Yeah. I told a guy one time, I said, the first song on the backside of an album also was always strong because, you knew you were going to flip it over and you'd play the first song over there. And they were unaware of that. And I said, well, you didn't know that? Yeah, get out all your record albums and, they'll put, a lot of times first 2 or 3 songs will be their strongest. And then, there'll be some other songs that are good. But then if you flip it over, they're usually a good one to start
Another
off
one
with.
of their hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unlike a B-side on a 45, a lot of times it was just a throwaway. But we're going back to the day on that. I want to sample a little bit of Red Roses to start with. And I'm a sucker for autobiographical songs. Mm-hmm. So is Red Roses that way? I mean, is it?
That song Annie wrote is somewhat her story.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a story about growing up in Northwest Iowa and some of the things that I was going through as a kid.
Yeah.
And, I lost my mom when I was really young, when I was 5. And so the whole thing about roses was, I grew up not liking roses and not really remembering why until I was a little bit older. So, Red Roses always make me want to cry is the first line. And then it's a little bit about loss and leaving Northwest Iowa as a teen.
And trying to find yourself as a very young, person.
And kind of pursuing songwriting and those things as an adolescent, moving out into the world. So.
Red roses always make me want to cry. I was just a boy when my mama died. She said, be careful with your heart, it could steer you wrong. I knew I had to be strong, had to be strong, had to be strong, had to be strong, had to be strong. I hit the road when I turned 15, a poet and a singer, I was full of dreams. I was just a kid with so much to prove. Hand to mouth, paid my dues, paid my dues, paid my dues, paid my dues, paid my dues. I always felt someone was watching over me. I hope my angel gets her way. Oh. Never found true love with anyone. Never wanted to need someone, but I gave you my heart. Felt so right. And I found you that night, and I found you, and I found you.
Actually, that was one of the first songs that I wrote when I decided to pursue songwriting again. And then the way I heard it, I just heard Dave's vocal on it. So it was really fun to introduce it to him. And then he worked on some of the arrangements. And we kind of bring songs to each other and then hammer them out together. So they end up being co-authored. Yeah. But it was fun to watch Dave bring that to life. And
Yeah, I got to ask you about that because I've seen folks interviewed about this before. So here you are, husband and wife, a singer-songwriting team. You write these songs. Well, like for instance, on that album, there's a song called "I Don't Need You."
yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So people listen to that and it's like, what's going on here? But these songs come in from different places, different influences, different times. I mean, how do you handle that? I mean,
I usually introduce that song live as a song that she wrote for me.
yeah.
As a love song.
Yeah, a love song.
It's
that she wrote
definitely
for
a love
me.
song.
Good Lord. I mean, does that factor? Do you think about that when you write stuff?
Well, that song is kind of a love song because it was about falling in love and not wanting to need somebody, but definitely needing them, So, it was kind of me trying to convince myself I don't need you.
I woke up, it was another day.
Okay, so next up I want to talk about another original song of yours that I really like, and it's called Of the Water. And Of the Water, to me, has a definite sound. It's got a real influence. David Crosby. That stuff sounds like Crosby, Stills, and Nash to me a little bit, you know? He's kind of got that...
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
you've
well,
moved
definitely
around.
an
Yeah.
influence, you know. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Well, and just David Crosby is such a cool...
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
and
he's different,
when they
you know?
wrote
Yeah.
their songs, you know, together, like, what was that song? Triad?
Yeah, that was the name of it, Triad. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful tune.
Or Guinevere, I kind of hear some of that in there.
Guinevere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's what I'm hearing. And that's a compliment. I mean, when you can get that, because he's so unique. I mean, that's very unusual sounding music, but it's got that kind of airy, kind of esoteric, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe a jazz influence or something. I don't know what it is, but that was a very interesting song for me to listen to.
Yeah, that's also a song about Lake Okoboji up in northwest Iowa.
Good.
And
I'm wearing an Okoboji cap for the interview
That's
here,
awesome.
so yeah.
And so I had asked Dave to really work on coming up with some kind of, I don't know, I can't remember how we described
Watery
sound. Yeah,
sound.
watery sound. And so
Yeah.
I wanted it to be about how, you know, when you live around a body of water, that often influences your life in so many ways, you know. So I felt like Lake Okoboji raised me in a lot of ways, just so many things that, you know, it was like just everything happened around the lake,
Yeah.
you know. And so I really love the way that turned out. It was, we just wrote it on a warm afternoon in Austin. I remember the studio door being open, and we came up with these chords and just started hammering it out, and it was just, it felt beautiful to me.
Yeah.
Waves catch the moonlight and washes it to shore. Runs through my fingers, pulls me out once more. Lake of the spirits, all my memories are here. Diving deep in your darkness, I can see things so clear. Of the water, of the water, of the water. Take me home. Carried by your current, cool water ease my pain. Mothered me through emptiness, springs eternal through my veins. Of the water,
before I forget, who plays the flute on that Crosby-ish type song?
That's a buddy of ours in Austin, Donnie Silverman.
Yeah.
And Donnie was a great saxophone player.
Yeah.
Is a great saxophone player, flute player. He was part of Townes Van Zant's band in the 80s, 80s Townes stuff. Donnie's monster player.
We were lucky to have him often join us on stage when we were playing in
yeah.
Austin, and he is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thrilled to get to meet you guys and talk music a little bit and preview the upcoming album. And the best part about this was, like I said, I didn't know what I was going to get into really when I retired and started going to some of the bars and hearing some of the music at some of the local venues here. And my God, is it good! And my Rosetta Stone for this, again, because I kind of started with him, my friend and musical mentor almost, Bob Pace. He appears on the podcast a lot, and Bob's been here in this area for longer than he and I would like to admit. He says, he knew of you when you were a young man, when we were all young, and he said then you guys went off and down in Austin, and you were on the West Coast for a while, and he says, my God, when you came back, had you honed the craft? I mean, he says it's just amazing. I'm just jaw-dropping for somebody like Bob. And that's what we're listening to today. Tell us a little bit about the musical journey.
Well, I grew up on the south side of Des Moines and started playing guitar seriously when I was about 13, and listened to all the usuals. But I was really stuck. Admittedly, I started on acoustic guitar, so I was listening to people like Jim Croce and John Denver and my sister's collection that included, Joni Mitchell, and she had some Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Beach Boys and stuff. So I grew up, listening.
It's all good stuff. Yeah.
My older brothers then started turning me on to Led Zeppelin and kind of more rock and roll. Got my first electric guitar. I'm listening to Aerosmith. I'm all over that. I'm playing in high school bands, and I actually start out playing, showing up in these little bars and pizza joints where a friend of mine would play and was legal to get in. I wasn't legal, but he'd let me come in and sit in as long as I didn't, get myself in trouble and try to get a drink or something like that. Stay over there, do what you do, and then stay right there,
Yeah.
So I got a lot of that. Now, I started teaching guitar at a store on Southwest 9th called Southtown Music, and that's where I met Bob. I think that's where I met him the first time.
You guys must have both been teenagers.
Because I was
15 or something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't driving yet. I was riding my bike over to the store.
Oh, this is a while ago.
Yeah. And Bob was already teaching, already really good, and I was just amazed, But somewhere, and I can't remember how this all happened, but there was Bob and I and a drummer and possibly a bass player in the same room in a kid's basement. And we were playing, and Bob was the guy that turned me on to like Johnny Winter. So I did. I followed that lead, and I bought these, and I used to get up every morning and listen to Johnny Winter and live before I'd go to school. I'd listen to a side of that or something. And then started to, branch out from there. And then in high school, my listening kind of broadened a little bit. I started listening to more songs, songwriters. I started listening to some jazz, and kind of took me in that direction. And then I was introduced to a guy, a guitar player that was an Iowa native, Tommy Bolin, who covered all kinds of things. So he played country, and then he played fusion, and then he had straight up rock and roll, and he could play funk, and that's
Was Bolin out of Sioux City or
Yeah.
And an untimely demise.
Yes, unfortunately, a lot of
which happened to a
from
lot
that
of people
era.
back then. Yeah, it was kind of the era for that.
Yep.
Seems like nobody could make it past the age of 27.
But what's kind of interesting about that is about 2 years later, a few years later, Dave, when Dave and I first met, he started playing with Tommy's brother, Johnny Bolin, in a band here with some other Iowans, band called the Penetrators.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Johnny. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, he was a drummer. He's the only member of the family left. Still in Sioux City.
Lifelong musician.
Played
guy.
For 20 years or more with Black Oak, Arkansas. So.
Oh, okay. Well, there are a number of people that still are huge Tommy Bolin devotees. What was his thing? Why was he so good? Why is he so highly regarded still?
I think what really put his name out was when he did the record with Billy Cobham called Spectrum. And that was kind of the birth of the fusion, the melding of rock and jazz. And Tommy was the rocker that came in and was playing these, for 23 years old or however old he was, amazing, licks. And he had a thing that, he worked with his effects and just his approach and phrasing that people like Jeff Beck took note to. And then next thing you know, Jeff's making a fusion instrumental record, and a bunch of people latch on. So that has, that's kind of his legacy, his big.
Yeah, he influenced a lot of guitar players back then.
Yeah, and still much beloved and greatly missed. Well, okay, so and again, to go back to the opening, the beginning on this, I don't have a hell of a lot of talent myself. I can do a little bit of radio and that type of thing, but I'm immensely impressed by people that have got it. And that's in the sports world with my hockey buddies. I watch some of that, and in the news and political realm, of course, and then with music. And I did, and these guys, you really good. I go back to, Bob's got his own podcast, but I want to say this about Bob Pace. He told me, he says, I'm playing with Ducharme-Jones, and he says, these songs are really good. And he says, we play a song with them, and it's like, God, who did that? Well, we did. And Bob, really? He says, that's what Bob says about you guys. He says, your original music is outstanding. It's stellar. I mean, your covers are really good, but your original stuff is so good that sometimes, well, is that a John Prine song? I mean, is it, who did? No, that's us.
Well, what's fun about Bob, too, is we've been doing a trio together sometimes. When we get a chance, if our schedules line up, we have found a couple of venues where we go, and he adds a third harmony to our stuff, and we're covering each other's originals. I've learned some of his originals.
Which he's written some beautiful songs.
Yeah. Exactly, and he's learned some of ours, and so we've had a blast doing that. And then Dave has kind of doing a monthly thing with him down at the Work Release. I think you're playing next Friday with him, right? And
check it out, folks. I mean, it's stellar. It's it's outstanding.
When he and Bob play together on stage, they are just playing off each other, and it's so fun.
Yeah. Well, I had James Bean on the podcast, and I got him to admit, and I said, just as players, I said, if you got in the Wayback Machine, you guys in 1962 would have been Clapton and Jimmy Page and so on. That's how good, accomplished you are as guitar players today. Now there's a lot of great guitar players. Back then there weren't as many, so those guys were the guys. But that, to me, that's how I look at the music that we're listening to today on local stages. It's absolutely great. Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about this new album that's coming out. Then music is never static. It changes, it evolves. Is this an evolution for you, or is this just more of a similar type sound to what was on the earlier album in 2016?
I think if you put the two together, you're going to hear some similarities. But I also think we're maybe touching on some new ideas and new things. I
definitely think it's an evolution. I do think there's some Ducharme-Jones
it's not a departure.
Flavors. Yeah. Several people have said, I would recognize that. It sounds like you guys, which
now there are a couple of songs that are, quite strikingly different.
California.
We did this song called California, and it's almost power
just very
trio pop. post-punk or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
With a little bit of California country.
Was it got
rolled
when I
in
think of
there.
California, I always think of a little bit of that echo guitar sound, that's in there with a
Like
lot of
the-
the surfer
like
music and stuff.
Bakersfield stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's great. So, are you testing any of these live?
We are.
Oh,
we
yeah.
Are. We actually we've been playing some of them for a while now, but some of them we haven't really taken out a whole.
Yeah, right now we have 12 songs. We had 13, but we've eliminated one for the time being, and we are. We actually kind of enjoy putting them out there before we record,
Sure.
so that the band has some comfort with
Yeah,
it.
we're
and
using our band, the guys that we
play with.
play gigs with. So
Plus, you get the feedback, the reaction. What people
Yeah.
seem to like, what lights up the
Yeah,
eyes. You
yeah.
see
And I
think the
people's
other-
faces and,
The other change in this record that has really created some magic, in my opinion, is adding our pedal steel player, Al Cabela. We have Scott Sutherland on bass and Jimmy Stevens on drums, and they're so solid and so great.
Yeah.
I so tickled to have them. And more recently, we've added Al. And instead of having a keyboard sound as much as we have in the past, we have now added this pedal steel, which to me feels like it should have always been there.
But I love it, and it doesn't. And people think, oh God, that means it's going to be old
Yeah,
style traditional
exactly.
country. Well, not necessarily.
He's not at all.
Yeah.
No.
There's nothing old style about him. He can play that stuff. He
Yeah.
can play anything, but
he's
brings
just as comfortable playing Pink Floyd.
psychedelic,
Yeah.
psychedelic pedal steel.
Right, I love that. I mean, that stuff is great. Well, what can we sample or preview? What have you got off the new album that we could start people with to give a listen to here?
We'll let you, hear a song called Beautiful on You. That was a song that, we wrote and started taking it out and playing it live. And people really, started showing a lot of love towards that song.
My key unlocked the door. Surprised it even fits here anymore. Coming home, the road behind. Forget where I've been, don't know where I'm going. The 6 strings of my heart and soul I'm towing. Yeah, I think about the price I paid. Tonight, just like 1,000 dreams, I'm in your arms, then the rain comes down, silver and blue, and it's beautiful on you. Walk down the street with your hand in mine. At this moment there's no sense of time. Let's make tomorrow so far away. And tonight, just like 1,000 dreams, I'm in your arms, then the rain comes down, silver and blue, and it's beautiful on you.
Okay, so one of my favorite songs that you guys do is a cover, and by way of explanation, I like all genres of music, and actually there's some country music that I like, although there's a lot of country music I don't particularly care for. Of course, I'm not a rap guy and that kind of stuff, but I got to admit, one of those songs that I've always kind of liked, and I've never known exactly why, because I'm not a Dolly Parton fan, but it's Jolene, and he covers that live. God, that thing, I don't know, it kind of gets to me. I really like that song. And that's going to be on this new CD? Yeah, tell us about that.
Definitely. Well, we started covering that, I can't remember when, but we slowed it down, and it's a little darker version of Jolene than you'll hear Dolly or Miley do. It's just a little bit different.
Yeah, for some reason I thought Dolly's version, was a little too peppy for what it was, the subject matter,
Yeah, it's kind of a sad thing, for one thing. It's kind of a tragedy.
It's very tragic, and so slowing it down, I think, to me, fit the lyric.
Yeah, and we've got, and the way we've been playing it live, we give, usually Scott Sutherland, our bass player, takes a nice solo on his fretless bass, and it's just really moody and beautiful, and then kind of picks up with the guitar solo.
Yeah, we jump into almost a double time rhythm where we've been sitting in kind of this, laid back thing, and then myself and Al do a traditional country solo setup, The guitar runs through half, and then the pedal picks up off the end of the guitar thing. It's
it's a tragedy, but it's kind of eerie. It's kind of dark. It's kind of like, I kind of listen to that song like, ooh, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Because everybody's aware, and if you think this shit don't happen in real world, folks, it does. I mean, This is I'm thinking, oh God, is somebody going to get cut with a letter opener here? Yeah. What's going to happen here next? Yeah.
Well, and Dolly is such a prolific songwriter. It's kind of fun to cover one of her songs. And I think also, for me, really early influences as a kid growing up were Linda Ronstadt and Emmylou Harris. I listened to a lot of, the Eagles and, all that stuff, in the 70s that had that country influence, but it was still rock.
I go to YouTube and watch when they're all on stage together. I can't remember what that is, but holy cow.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. And, that was Americana. That was really just interesting.
Yeah.
Fusion
Americana
of country and
before
rock.
It was Americana.
Right.
I've got that Emmylou Harris album. What is it? Quarter Moon and a Half. What is that? Something about a horse and a quarter moon or whatever. I don't know. Everybody always liked Emmylou just because of the way she looked. I got to admit, Linda Ronstadt, same way. I got it. Beautiful.
They were darling.
Oh, that's part of the attraction with Ducharme-Jones too. I got to admit, that's part of it. So Jolene's on there. Okay, so let's listen to that, and listen particularly for...
It's just kind of a, listen for the mood, listen to the journey it takes, it just doesn't sit in one place. It carries you musically, kind of a little up and down ride there.
And listen for the bass solo, because I don't think you hear a lot of bass solos on songs that, necessarily.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out.
Record.
Scott Sutherland, Iowa Blues Hall of Fame member.
Yeah.
Yeah, so check out Scott's bass line in this. And this is Dolly Parton's Jolene with Annie on the vocal. Check this out.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging, please don't take my man. Jolene, Jolene, Jolene. With flaming locks of auburn hair, ivory skin and eyes of emerald green. Your smile is like a breath of spring. Your voice is like the summer rain. I can't compete with you, Jolene. He talks about you in his sleep. There's nothing I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. And I could easily understand how you could easily take my man, but you don't know what Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't take him just because you can.
So we've been listening to Jolene. That's going to be on the new Ducharme-Jones CD that's about to be released. Outstanding cover of an outstanding song. And, you know, these little podcasts that last about 20 or 25 minutes long. And people say, well, why do they last that long? Well, it kind of just ends up that way. I don't know. That seems like the appropriate length. Maybe that's why TV shows are half an hour long. I don't know why that. The other thing about it is that people like to listen to podcasts during commutes. Most commutes, particularly in this part of the country, are over with in 20, 25 minutes. You know, I mean, Des Moines rush hour, it'll take you 25 minutes to get from one point to another. So you can listen to the entire podcast in one commute. So we're getting near our end time here. I want to just kind of open it up a little bit for you guys. Is there something that I haven't asked about that you'd like to talk about or point out to folks that we could get to?
I really want to just mention how our transition from Austin to Des Moines has been for us. You know, it's really been a wonderful opportunity to meet a new music community, you know, just so many great things about Des Moines.
And I have to say, it's a great music community. And we've always said that, you know, Austin, at the time we moved there, you know, reminds us of where Des Moines is now. And that's not in a bad way. Not that we're behind the times here by any means. It's just the growth hasn't hit this city yet, and it hasn't.
But the creativity is here.
In
The
a
musicians
big,
are
healthy
here.
way.
It's coming. We're kind of like a young Austin. You know, James Bean's been on the podcast before. I specifically asked him. He says, you know, I've been down to Austin. He says, I've played down there. He says, I went down there, and he says, and I thought that everybody down there would be Billy Gibbons, Stevie Ray Vaughan, everybody. Well, no, he says, we got guys. Des Moines doesn't need to take a backseat to anybody.
No, they don't.
That's for sure.
Austin has nothing
That's for
against
sure.
the music scene here.
And we've made such great friends with the musicians here. So I feel like we've been able to give them our support, and they've been supportive to us. So it's been a wonderful,
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful opportunity.
That's why I love to visit with musicians and talk to. I know hockey players. Some hockey players are jerks. They really are. I mean, and you kind of got to be sometimes to be at the top of that game, you know. Some newsmakers, some of these people out there that are making news in the political arena that I've interfaced with, they're kind of jerks in my professional career. A lot of the marketing people, they were very competitive. Some of those people weren't very nice. The musicians are all like they're great people. They're all very kind.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it really is heartwarming, and it's very great it's great to have you in this music community that we're living here in the heartland.
Yeah, and it's not just even the musicians; they are all awesome and so friendly and wonderful. But it's the music community too. The fans, the people that come out and hear music, are amazing here.
Yes.
So we've made great friends with people that just love music, and it's been a really nurturing environment for us to.
Well, I've really enjoyed this, and again, in just one podcast, you can't get it all in. So maybe we'll come back, revisit. Maybe we'll come back after the CD's been released.
That'd be
great. That'd be great.
And it's untitled. That's this is the untitled, unreleased CD that's coming. How long? When will it be done? Do you think?
I hope to have it shipped to master by the end of March.
Yeah, and there
And if
will
it
be
happens,
CDs of this.
Yeah,
you know,
we will.
You can't buy a car that has a CD player.
No,
anymore.
I know,
can't.
but we'll make some
Good
CDs
Lord.
happen.
Yeah,
I know.
I have a
it's-
fantasy of printing some vinyl too, but we'll see.
wouldn't that be something?
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd
I
be
would
fun.
love that too, but I know it's expensive and it's not like it used to be yet.
No, but
We'll see.
Well, that's great. That's going to do it for this time around. That's Ducharme-Jones, Dave and Annie on another podcast by George.